Hey, what's going on, Ramley? Welcome to the Ram Skinny here on the LAFB network. We are Los Angeles Sports. I wish I could say live from Indianapolis. I do have my Indianapolis mug.
Hmm.
We went, 2 years in a row skinny, and the last 2 years just couldn't quite swing it. Our credentials are sitting there in Indy waiting for us. But just with life and expenses and stuff, couldn't quite make it. But we're reporting from the ground of LA, tell you guys and all the happenings. Luckily, with the way with social media and the internet now, like you really don't need to be anywhere. It's more of a fun outing to go and network and hang out with all the writers that we've met and podcasters out there and insiders. But all the information you can get pretty much in real time just being on the internet. But I wish we were there, but I'm happy to at least be on screen with you, Skinny, and talking all things Rams and primarily, again, the hot button topic, Matthew Stafford. But Skinny T, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing real good. Yeah, I'm missing the slippery noodle. That's for sure.
Ah,
Oh
yeah.
man, that would have been that's a good time. If you're ever in Indianapolis, find the slippery noodle.
Oldest
What?
bar in the state of Indiana.
I forgot that. Some gonna have some good blues music there. Some inexpensive whiskeys if that's your jam. But
Yeah.
highly recommend. You can go to that famous steakhouse. I can't remember the name
St.
off the top
Elmo's.
of my St. Elmo's. That's fine. Slippery noodle. That's where it's at. We
Yeah.
were we
You I
were
mean
a foot away from.
you have to go to St. Elmo's. It's become touristy now at this point because it's
Yeah.
become so popular because of the combine and media have written stories about it. But it's still worth going. I mean, it's a staple. I mean, it's huge.
Oh yeah.
It's like I was there last summer for Big Ten Media Day, Skinny. Unfortunately, you weren't there, but I went with our good friend Will and Matt, and they took us down to the basement. There's like 3 levels. I didn't realize
Oh
that.
wow.
3 different levels. Like it is massive. Like makes it feel like an actual speakeasy when you get down to the basement. You're like, I'm like no service down here. But fantastic. The shrimp
Shrimp
um,
cocktail.
shrimp cocktail's fantastic. The steaks are out of this world. The service is great. And during the combine is the best because like everyone is there. So like I remember when we went, me, you, and our good buddy Matt, right, who does like a
Yeah,
Rams podcast as well.
yeah.
He joined us, and we're sitting next to all the insiders and agents and players and everyone just hanging out in there. So it's a good time.
As we were walking into the building, Mike McDaniel was right outside.
Yeah.
He was just typing something on his phone.
Oh yeah. And then after we had a great dinner, then we go to the Slippery Noodle, which again is a must. Slippery Noodle, oldest bar in Indiana. It's kind of a not. I wouldn't call it. Would you call it a dive bar? I guess I'd kind of call it a divey bar, but it's more of just an old
It's
staple,
yeah, it's not a swanky place.
like an old tavern.
Yeah,
Tavern. There you go. I
real
mean, it's the
informal.
oldest bar in the state. It's going to feel old. But we go there after, and we're hanging out with Mark Brunell and the Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator Kevin Stefanski made an appearance there. Everyone's just hanging out, having a good time.
Yeah, Mark Brunell was giving Stephen Confancy all he could handle.
Yeah, I know. It's great. Everyone just like lets their hair down because it's all
Yeah,
like off the record. You're all just drinking. So everyone like forgets. Like you were having a pretty in-depth convo, I remember, with the Cardinals OC, and he was like spilling some tea. And it was like, well, we're off the record, so we'll just have some fun and throw back some whiskey.
yeah. If only I could remember what we talked about.
Yeah, that's what he was banking on, I think. He's like, yeah, these guys aren't going to remember anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
But anyway, wish we were there. We will for sure, I think, be there next year. I'm really bummed, last thing on this note, but so like I said, the Big Ten Media Day was in Indy last year as well. So I was able to go last year for Big Ten Media Day covering USC and UCLA. And so I was like, all right, well, if I can't go for the combine because for whatever reason, well, not for whatever reason, but the prices just like skyrocket for the combine, just rightfully so. It's a big event that everyone goes out for. I'll go again in July for the Big Ten Media Day latest and get my Indy fix. I mean, it's a great American city, Indianapolis, right? Dead center of the country. But they moved it now. Big Ten Media Day is moving to Vegas. Like everything's in Vegas now, which is great for travel purposes because it's so cheap and affordable. But I mean, we've been to Vegas so many times. Like I'm trying to go to new
Yeah.
places. Put in
I don't need to
Chicago
go to
again or
Vegas.
something.
I don't need to go to Vegas again. And I think they're talking about moving the combine again. And I'm kind of rooting for Denver. I think Denver is where it should land.
Denver would be cool. I mean, it'd be easy for me. It'd be in my hometown.
Yeah.
So I'd be for that. See family, and we'd have free places to stay. But I just hope it doesn't leave Indy. There's something historic about it being in Indianapolis and how everyone just confides there. It's a big city, but a small enough feel you can walk everywhere. But if they're going to keep it there, they got to figure out how to make travel easier. Like, there's no way getting from LA to Indy should be so difficult. Like, I don't get it. Makes no
Yeah,
sense
for
to me.
sure.
LA,
Yeah.
I mean, LA to Indy, those are two pretty big hubs, and yet
Well,
there's like no direct flights.
that's what I'm saying. Denver, you get a direct flight from Tokyo if you want to.
Oh yeah, and LA to Denver is like $80 round trip. We do it all the time. It's
Yeah.
so cheap. But we were even talking about road tripping to Indy because the flights went up so high, or had like 2 layovers. There was going to be like a 24-hour travel day. It's like, well, why don't we'll just road trip it, just drive it out. So we even thought about that. But
Well,
anyway,
and to defend ourselves, just one last thing. I can't remember who it was, but they worked for a major media outlet, ESPN or an NFL Network or something like that. That whatever organization was made this person pay their way to the
yeah,
Super Bowl. I
yeah.
don't remember who that was, but it was
Well,
like
that
it was recognize. I think it was Schrager. Maybe it was Schrager.
may have been. Well, and I've met when I was at Big Ten Media Day, there were people from the Athletic that had to pay their own way, people from the Times that paid their own way. So I mean,
Yeah,
they're strapping down on me. I mean, we know the 33rd now doing all their layoffs and whatnot, and kind of
yeah.
eliminating their content department. I mean, it's a tough business, and when you got to pay expensive travel fees, I mean, that's usually that gets cut pretty quick. And
Yeah.
really, with this, it stops with us on who's paying that. So, but anywho, so obviously the big story outside of draft prospects, which the combine really starts setting the mood, even though free agency hasn't opened yet. It starts setting the mood for the NFL draft, which I cannot wait, Skinny, to cover with you. Covering the draft for the Rams is always such a blast because of just how different they operate. And, sitting now with what do they have right now? Six picks right now,
Sounds about right.
but they'll probably end up with like 11. So, I mean, it'll be fun. And who knows if it's Stafford's because of that. But so we'll be turning the draft very quickly. But a lot of what happens at the combine, actually, because all the agents are there, all the GMs, except the Rams, are there, is that usually free agency tampering kind of takes place a little bit at these places like St. Elmo, like Slippery Noodle, where people are off the record, just kind of shooting, gauging interest. All of them were hanging out. And so while it's a draft event, it's actually a lot of free agency talk going on. And one of those big topics, obviously, is Matthew Stafford. And I don't know if any necessarily new news has come out, but more news and more, I don't want to say confusion, but I guess it's just cloudier and cloudier of what will actually happen keeps coming out. So we're going to get to that first real quick. Show is always brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. All the best money lines, games, spreads, over-unders in the wagering business can be done at BetOnline. Baseball spring training's back. Lakers, Luka, Mavs tonight. If I can get this recorded, if I can get this published on time, Luka returns to Dallas tonight. That should be a fun one. You can put some money on there on BetOnline. The Kings looking dominant. Great win last night at Staples. Kings looking. We got Kings content now at LAFB Network, and obviously every other sport you can think of. So everything can be done at BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. Tell them the guys at the LAFB Network sent you. So, Skinny, I know you wanted to start it with just some headlines or some whatever, all the different range of news that has been talked about Matthew Stafford since the season kind of ended.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go through basically everything that's been reported, thrown out there. I tried to get it down to the big points. It won't take long, I promise. I'm just gonna throw it all out there. Stop me if you want to interject at all.
If I had more time and editing skills, this is where this would be like a cool montage while you're
Yeah,
reading these.
I love it. All right, so kind of starts off with Stafford saying he expects to play for 3 to 4 more years, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Jordan Rodriguez reports that sides met on February 9th. No progress made. Then Jordan Schultz reports the Rams want a first-round pick, and the Rams want Stafford back. Ian Rappaport comes out and says Matthew Stafford has permission to gauge the trade market, see what his value is out there. That came out on February 22nd, just a couple of days ago. Now, I heard Ari Murray, I guess maybe formerly of the 33rd team. We'll see.
We'll see.
He says this kind of thing happens all the time, but it's considered tampering, so it happens under wraps. The Rams just kind of made it legal by allowing that to happen.
Yep.
Peter Schrager, this is and the rest of this is just from yesterday. Peter Schrager comes out and says that Matthew Stafford wants at least $50 million, somewhere in that $50 million plus range. And then multiple teams are already saying that they're willing to outbid the Rams to meet that number to get Stafford. Mm-hmm. Albert Breer names 4 of those teams: Giants, Browns, Steelers, Raiders. We've talked about a couple of these already.
Yep.
Pelissero comes out and he says Stafford is engaging in talks with teams, doesn't name any teams. Then Dan Graziano comes out and says this is all going to be settled in the next couple of days. He thinks the combine is really where it's going to get worked out. So
which is interesting considering the Rams don't go to the combine, but continue.
I think they're going to have somebody out there just to have these talks. It's not going to be Les Snead, but that's kind of gets us to where we are today. So we know what the Rams probably want. They want a first round pick. We know what Stafford probably wants, somewhere north of 50 mil. We know that there's multiple teams that are willing to pay him. There's multiple teams engaged in the trade talks. And we know that Stafford wants he sees his career extending into the late 2020s. He doesn't see his career ending anytime soon. So, I mean, what all of this say to me is that it's 50-50 right now. It's a coin flip. I can't tell which way this is leaning right now. And ultimately, the decision has to be made by Matthew Stafford. Mm-hmm. The ball is in his court completely. He's got offers on the table if he wants to go play in New York. He's got whatever the Rams are offering. The Rams have made it clear what they want for Stafford. So all of the cards are on the table at this point. Now it's just ready for somebody to ante up and call, make the call. And I think it's in Stafford's court at this point.
Yeah, no, great stuff. And the last one you didn't mention on top of all that was the just today podcast release where Sean McVay joined Ryan Fitzpatrick and Andrew Whitworth to talk about this. And so McVay, obviously this was recorded probably yesterday or days prior, but he kind of just agreed with everything that was laid out. But I thought what was interesting in that conversation was that, take this for what you want, but basically he said, we want Matthew Stafford back. We've had dialogue. I have a great relationship with Matthew Stafford. We want him back. We want him to be our quarterback. But I have to think about my entire team and what the future of my team is and make sure we're not hamstrung down the line based on the decision we make right now. So if he was unequivocal about the best move for us is Matthew Stafford, he would have just said, Stafford's the guy. We will make it happen. Kind of like last year, right? Last year, the offseason, there was these talks and both sides were like, it's going to get done. Don't worry about it. Like, he's our guy. We'll make it happen. This time he was very positive on Stafford. It's kind of like how they teach you in sales and debate, right? Like, okay, you got to come with a positive before going to a negative. Comes with a positive, like, he's our guy. He's the future. However, I have a responsibility to the whole team and this. And if he's not going to kind of find in line to where we want him to be, then I got to do what's best for the team in the future because we can't, screw ourselves in 2 years with whatever the contract or whatever his age or whatever it may be. So I don't think that was necessarily like him saying that's not going to get done by any means. But I think it was definitely him saying like they're not there yet. Like there's definitely a gap that clearly there is there. I mean, he even said, I think straight up, like we both met and realized that we're not at the same level that we need to be. And so that's why we got to where we are now. I don't know how far that level's off. That's what we'll kind of like just discuss and talk about for fun. We know Stafford, as you said in the reporting, that he wants 50 million plus. How much plus? We don't know. The Rams are paying him 40. So are they willing to go up to 48, 49? Are they like 40, 45 is the max? Like, we don't know the gap, what that is. That's the interesting thing. And, whether people have a problem with that, that's everyone's own opinion. You're entitled to that opinion. This is a professional sport. These are pro contracts that are out there for everyone to see. So everyone will have an opinion, but that's just kind of like, as of now, that's the way it's laid out. Let me ask you this before we really get into kind of like what we think maybe the difference is. And this is going like worst case scenario. Worst case. So the Rams have said they want a first round pick. They've also said they haven't said they're good with Aaron Rodgers, but I think it's pretty clear they could get Rodgers for really cheap. Like Rodgers would probably come here to start for vet minimum because he's getting paid by the Jets. They've also said, based on Peter Schrager's reporting, they do really like Jimmy Garoppolo. They could sign him for really cheap. Is there a world where this gets ugly somehow? Where Stafford's like, nope, I want to be a top 3 paid quarterback. And the Rams are like, nope, we're not doing that. And no team is willing to give a first round pick. Well, guess what? Stafford's under contract. So is there a world where Stafford just doesn't play, sits on the bench, holds out, and the Rams start the year with Garoppolo or Aaron Rodgers anyway, even with Stafford?
Man, that is the worst case scenario. I mean,
Yeah.
He's under contract. He does. I mean, obviously he can hold out or hold in, or this is we're talking eons in the news cycle. We're talking August, which is like I don't even know what August is right now.
Hey, it's already almost March. It'll be here before we know it.
I can only live for the day. I can't even think about the draft or free agency right now.
Yeah.
I can't make it to August, but we've seen it in the NFL where things do go south and can go south really quickly. And you think about what McVay was saying on that podcast, and I hadn't come across that portion of it where they talked Stafford. I saw the Cooper Cup stuff, but it's what does it look like if they can't come to terms? For the Rams side of things, is they're kind of hamstrung in terms of free agency and the draft. They don't currently have a second round pick. That if there's a first round pick on another first round pick on the table, let's say they do something with the Giants and they end up with number 3. Is that where they are? 3? Yeah. That opens up this whole world for, free agency, trades, and the draft. You could turn number 3 into a whole bunch of picks, or Tet McMillan or Cam Ward if they want to go that direction. So, there is a timetable on that isn't August. Yeah. That's not what we're talking, right? We're talking about a couple of weeks. Free agency opens on the 12th.
Yeah.
Tampering is now. Tampering is right now. the tampering period is happening as we're sitting here. So I think that, a call has to be made. And if the Rams are back against the wall and they're not getting the first round pick that they want, I think that they would settle for less.
Yeah. No pun intended. Settle for less. I mean, less does settle for less a lot.
Oh, yeah. In trading. I didn't know where you were going with that.
Sorry. Yeah. Les Snead does settle for less quite a lot in trading, at least in draft conversation, just to like ditch contracts. I don't think it'll get to that point. I think both sides will probably, hopefully get it done. And if they just realize they're too far off, I think they'll just, it'll get dealt probably pretty quickly. And the Rams will say, you know what, let's get what we can get, move forward, move on. They're not a team that's just going to like be petty and hold on to a guy and be like, all right, well, you can just sit. And
do you think this gets done over the next, let's say, 4 days?
I go back and forth. Like, I thought last week when we recorded, I was like, I feel good. Because we talked about this needs to happen quick, because if you are going to go and sign Aaron Rodgers, or we now know based on today, Terry Fontenot of the Falcons is saying they're going to keep Kirk Cousins as the backup, which is kind of the scenario I'm saying with Stafford. Are they just going to like hang on to and make him like sit, which is so bizarre to me. Like, teams would want Kirk, you get something for him. But anyway, so Kirk Cousins looks like he's probably not available. But if you want to get a Sam Darnold or an Aaron Rodgers or a Daniel Jones or someone else, like, you need to have some clarity by March 12th. So I'm not sure if something gets done this week, but I think there has to be a decision made before, March 10th, going into that free agency tampering period, the legal tampering period. Like, they have to know. Because I mean, what if you get to the draft and there's no quarterbacks left and this is still not done? Then we're talking worst case scenario. Like, are they rolling Jimmy G and just having Stafford sit licking his wounds, like not getting a contract?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to say that the only number that matters when it comes to the team building thing is the cap hit. So on the Stafford side of things, he's got only $4 million guaranteed, which is something he agreed to last year. But he's a nearly $50 million cap hit.
Yeah.
So I mean, I mean that's the 0 hour, when free agency opens, because if he's not made available, if a decision isn't made, his value starts to drop significantly when other quarterbacks start coming off the market. So, or goes up, but it means less for the Rams at that point. They can't wheel and deal for those same kind of trade compensations.
Yeah. When do you remember? When did the Goff Stafford trade? Like, was it in late
It was in
January?
February.
It was in February, right?
Yeah,
I
I
think it
don't
was right.
remember
Was it
exactly.
right before the combine? It must. I mean, they were in Cabo, so it must have been before. I mean, not the Rams are at the combine anyway, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to look when the actual. Just because I'm looking at timeline, like, is this is the time when January 30th?
Oh, okay.
Oh, so that was, I think, even was that before the Super Bowl even that year?
Wow.
Obviously didn't become official until the new league year, but
Yeah.
um, anyway, yeah, I mean, something's got to happen very quickly. This is not something that's going to, like last year, I think, go into training camp because there needs to be there clearly is a further gap than there was even last year. I'm just curious last year when they had these negotiations for 6 months, like how they couldn't come up with something better for the following season. Like you're always looking for the future too. Like the fact they're like, well, I guess I'm good with this. We'll just put a bow on it and do this again next year. Like,
Well, I mean, looking back on it, you got to think that the Rams feel like they won that side of things because they didn't have to extend him beyond what they wanted to, and that's always been my opinion is that the big difference between the two parties is the years. You
yeah,
know, we've got Stafford saying 3 to 4. And I don't know if he actually believes that or what hubris is involved in that decision. But I think the Rams. I think if the Stafford camp came to them and said 50 million 1 year contract, boom. I don't think they would. I don't think either side would have a problem with that.
yeah, it's more the years. Okay, well, let's get to our opinions now. We've laid kind of down like the sides, the facts that we know. Now we'll get into the opinion base that probably is going to get people mad at us. But it seems like the Rams fans are kind of 50-50 split, just at least based on X. It seems like there's half that are saying just pay him what he's worth it, pay him whatever he wants, like don't be cheap. And then there's half saying like, hey, you should take a pay cut, like not a pay cut, but you should like, look at the roster building and what we can allocate to this. So it seems like it's real 50-50 split. So hey, what's going on, family? Got to quickly tell you about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy, new sponsor and friend of the show. One of the most fun games out there, fantasy games you can do in the industry today. Super easy to do. Go to the App Store or go to underdogfantasy.com. Download today. Use our promo code LAFB, or you can just click the link in the description wherever you are watching. That promo code is going to give the new user that you have just become a free pick, one free pick, and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's free money. Up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Why would you not want to do that for a simple deposit? Just make sure to use that promo code LAFB or click the link below. The game is super easy. It's super fun. Pick 2 to 8 players in a game. Go ahead and go with the higher or lower, whether they're going to have more passing yards, touchdowns, receiving yards, rushing yards, any of that. It's a lot of fun. And just choose higher or lower. That's easy with the opportunity to win. So go to Underdog Fantasy today. Promo code LAFB gets you a free entry and up to a $1,000 bonus cash. Let me ask you this first. When we look at the top quarterbacks contracts, and you have Dak, and we're just going by annual or average per year. Dak to the top at 60, which is obviously egregiously overpaid. Joe Burrow and Jordan Love are second at 55 million. Trevor Lawrence and Tua. Oh, sorry. Trevor is with Burrow and Love at 55. Then you have Tua and Goff at 53, and then Herbert and Jackson at 52, and Jalen Hurts at 51. That's the top 9 paid quarterback. So based on the reporting, Stafford wants to be 50 plus. So whether he slides in there right at 10 at 50 or goes higher up. So let me just ask you this. Where do you think, this is just all guessing, we have no idea, but what do you think number he's like looking at as like, I
I
don't
think
know,
he's
price
looking at
range?
and pride has something to do with this. I think the Stafford camp has been pretty clear that he wants to be compensated like a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah.
Which puts him in the $50 million range. He would
Yep.
be number 10 if he was exactly 50. Schrager says 50 plus. What does 50 plus mean? That leaves a lot of a lot
Yeah.
of room there. So I'm going to say just right above Goff. That's
Yep.
where he wants to be. Goff is at 53, so I think he takes 54, somewhere in that range.
Yep. I agree. I think not that I don't think Stafford's like a petty guy, but something about it, like him and Goff were traded. He's had more success overall. Goff's had success too, but and Goff obviously beat them in the playoffs last year. But he got the Super Bowl win by coming here. I feel like he's probably like, hey, I should be making more than that guy. I could see it being 53 and $1, 53 million and $1, just go that petty dollar just to make more than Goff. Um, but yeah, I mean that seems to be kind of that where that side goes. So now let me ask you this: based on that, should the Rams give him that, in your opinion? Like, is this a situation where it's like you were one play away? Stafford's still playing at a good level. We talked about all season. There was ups and downs, but overall, he's still a very good quarterback. He knows the system. He's a team leader, captain. Do you just kind of not a blank checkbook, but you say, get it done. He's the guy. Run it back with him. Your thoughts?
I'm with McVay on this. We got to start looking to the future for the Rams. Stafford is not the future. His runway is short. I think a year. He thinks 3 to 4. Even if you're talking 3 to 4, I keep saying it, but like there's gotta be a succession plan. There's gotta be something out there that we, as fans and analysts can hang our hat on and go like, okay, I see where we're going. And that just doesn't exist right now. You're not getting a replacement at number 22, even in the first round. I don't think, certainly not this year, unless they have some magic crystal ball that says Jackson Dart's the next guy. So I mean, so what do teams in this position normally do? They usually draft, pick up a bridge quarterback. So that's so unless it's a run it back situation for 1 year contract, I'm not paying him anymore. I'm not agreeing to anything beyond that. Just because we don't even know what it's going to look like after this year. So, how do you get from today to the future with Stafford if he's demanding 3 years or 2 years? Like you're going to have another draft pick in the 20s to 30s, and that doesn't set you up in the draft. The money doesn't allow them to go out and get a Sam Darnold, to get Aaron Rodgers, which I mean that's a different topic, but trying out a bridge quarterback like a Daniel Jones or something like that, it's cost prohibitive where his salary is going to fall, where his cap hit is going to fall. So I think I'm in the camp of it's time to move on. If he's got all time second most career earnings in the NFL.
Yeah.
Behind one person. Which is Aaron Rodgers, who's played 20. He's had a 20-year career. 4 years behind him there is Stafford. So, I think he's got to lay down his pride. I think he plays on a smaller contract. He's made, let me look at this number again, an astounding $364 million as a professional quarterback. I think just join if you want to stick with the Rams, join up on a 1 year contract, get a little bit of extra guaranteed money, get some bonus on there, lower your cap hit, and bite the bullet and go win a fucking championship. I swore. I'm sorry.
Nah, look at you. Hey, we're not on radio anymore, so I like it.
That's true.
Fiery. I like it. No, man, I agree. Look, this is the business, right? This is what we do. It's always awkward talking about people's money because you don't know everyone's situations. We're not sitting down with Stafford and his family and knowing kind of what they want, and you never want to be overly critical of someone for their decision making. So this is all just hearsay and for the sake of conversation. Like whatever Matthew Stafford and his family thinks is best for them, great, albeit. But to me, from someone covering the team, from someone that's a fan of just football and team roster construction, and someone looking at how the Rams are kind of viewing things, it doesn't make any sense for them to make him a top 5 paid quarterback. I mean, you look at the last, I don't have the full list. I remember I looked at this a few years back. It was after Dak's contract. But you look at the last 20 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Not one of them, certainly not one of them was the top paid quarterback in the NFL. I don't even know if any of them was the top 5. Maybe you could be fringe 5. But Brady always made less. Manning always made less. Breeze made less. They were always right up there. I'm not saying they were taking like peasant money, but they were never in that top echelon pay. Even Mahomes, everyone I know thinks of that crazy contract, 10-year, $500 million. But the way they structured it is per year, he was never in that top 3 range. And his cap hit doesn't hit hard until this year. This is when the Chiefs are really, we're going to see what they're made of.
Yeah.
Because you look at the last few years, in 22, he had a $29 million cap hit. Or excuse me, 35 million. In 23, a 37 million. In 24, a 37 million. Now this year, Mahomes has a $66 million cap hit. So now we'll see if the Chiefs can really get back to that echelon or if that window is going to close because of Mahomes being in that cap number. But all the quarterbacks in the last 20 years, and everyone's like, well, I remember that crazy Flacco contract. That came after he won the Super Bowl. Then he became the highest paid quarterback. And guess what? They never went back. You look at the guys that Foles got paid. He wasn't top 5, but after he won, he got paid by Jacksonville. They stunk. He didn't play anymore. For whatever reason, like when you make your quarterback, and you got to take care of him. I'm not saying like you can just be cheap your whole career. But as soon as you jump up and they have that huge cap hit that takes away from things, this isn't, there's different ways to go around it too. Just historically, you don't win because you have to, it's the true team sport. You need a great quarterback to win 1000%, but you have to be able to stretch the money elsewhere and do things. And when you look at right now, those top 9 quarterbacks that are being paid, I mean, are any of those guys worth it? If you look at that list, how many teams would probably sit here and say, yep, that contract is worth it? You probably say the Bengals and Burrow, but remember, he got paid that's after his rookie deal. He went to the Super Bowl his second season, hasn't been back since with that contract. And now we'll see if they can get their star receivers re-signed. I mean, that's Jamar Chase you're talking $40 million next year. T. Higgins, $30 million. You're going to have your 3 offensive players making over $100 million. Good luck. Packers in Love, I think they're fine with that now. He's looking good, but we'll see what they end up doing. Jags and Lawrence, I don't think anyone's saying he's worth $55 million. Obviously, Dak's not worth 60. Tua's not worth 53. Goff 53, Herbert 52, Lamar 50. I mean, it's semantics, right? Like you could argue a little bit here and there. I'm just trying to get at that. Like we haven't seen Super Bowl winning success based on top paid quarterbacks. And Matthew Stafford, while we both believe is probably in that top 10 quarterback echelon. So you would say, well, then he should be paid like a top 10 quarterback. You brought up a great point earlier when we were talking. When the Rams are probably looking at us as not what you've done for me, but what you can do for me in the future. And while Stafford was a top 10 quarterback 2 years ago, had some really elite level play last year, do they believe next year he'll be a top 5 quarterback? If they're going to pay him $53 million and $1, which will be top 5. Well, next year, in 2 years, will he be top 5? That's the hard question. And that's why I think both sides are far off. Sorry, I just ranted for a long time.
No, all great points. And I'm glad you brought that up. Football is not real life. The job of being a football player isn't like the job we do or being a construction worker or something like that. But, in what profession do you get paid more money if you're not getting a promotion or taking on additional responsibilities? In what profession do you get paid for what you've done in the past, not what you're expected to do in the future? If you get a promotion, you get a new job, you're going to have other things to do. You're not doing the old stuff. You're doing new stuff.
You get a bonus. You might get a bonus, but not like a fatter contract.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's how they should structure it. I think a big fat bonus to make them happy. guaranteed money that he can, stick in a 401k or whatever he wants to do with it. But you also bring up Brady. How many rings has that guy got? 7? Is that right? 7
Yeah.
rings.
Yeah.
So he's the third highest career earning NFL player of all time, behind Stafford by a significant margin, $50 million less in his career. And he played 20 some odd
5
seasons.
years. Yeah.
Ugh. So I mean,
23.
Obviously you can't tell anybody don't take the money. But listen, this is what, like, I don't, whatever ends up happening. I don't. The only thing I want is the Rams to have a plan for the future. What happens with Stafford? I'm not married. I'm not wed to either side of it. Like if he stays, he stays. If he goes, he goes. But it's like at a certain point, you got to decide what you want. Now he can take a whole bunch of money and go play for the Giants. I guarantee you. But are they winning a championship? Are they going to make the playoffs? They got Malik Neighbors. They got some good pieces on defense. But you're one game away in sunny California. Your wife's sitting up in Malibu, Pacific Palisades or whatever, having herself a good time. Kids are in fantastic schools out here. Whatever. Like you got to make your decision what you want to do. You can't have both.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. Well, and the last thing I'll say about the money side, and again, I hate talking people's money. It's awkward. I don't want to sound like we're coming down on Stafford, but I've seen some other people saying, and there's part of this that is absolutely true. Like I've seen some people saying, like, well, they put their life on the line, their career on the line. It could end on any play. They got to make sure they're taken care of, and then yes, I agree. My one argument to that is, you've already made enough. You're taken care of. Like I don't think if your career ended tomorrow, like you'd be able to fit the doctor bill for life. And I don't think $3 million over the next 2 years would change that. Whether you take 47 with the Rams or 52 with the Giants or whatever, I don't think that's the difference of you setting yourself up for medical freedom the rest of your life and taking care of your family. I think you'll be okay. Like I get, for us, $5 million is a huge deal. And we were talking about this pre-air, but like when you break it down on like a residual level of like us, that's like being offered $100,000 job and a $90,000 job. Like, is that 10K going to dramatically shift where you end up in life in the future? Probably not. I mean, you could blow through it quicker or whatever. I mean, those are semantics. So I don't think that really should be the argument. And the other side of that is, the staying power that Stafford can have, and he can have this in New York too, but the staying power that Stafford can have as the quarterback of the Rams in Los Angeles, the endorsement deals can pay for itself. I mean, he can do 100 Mattress Firm commercials if he wants and make up the extra $5 million. So I really don't think it truly is money. It's more, I think, of a pride thing, really just wanting to be, and everyone argues this differently. You got to feel valued. Got to feel valued, right? And some people put value on what they get paid. And I'm not speaking for Stafford now. This is just generalizing because I don't want to put words in his mouth. But now I'm just getting on a soapbox and generalize and ranting. But some people put value on, like, I'm going to feel valued based on what my employer pays me. If I'm playing at this level, do they value me as a top 10, top 5, or, oh, wow, they only see me as a top 20 quarterback? Other people will put value in, like, what's the relationships like? What's the buildings like? What's the people I work with like? What's the work environment like? What's the life situation like? Like I would put that, for me, I'd put higher value on that, and how I'm valued is like, okay, they're taking care of me in all these other ways, and we don't know all the situations of that. So it feels very much from the outside, just going through this reporting and just sifting through everything, like it's really purely he wants to be seen as monetarily valued at a certain level, and he does not feel that way right now. And so getting to that level is more important than all the other stuff.
Yeah. If you want to talk about pride and what it means, to be a certain echelon of a certain whatever, he could go down in history as one of the greatest Rams of all time if he sticks around and they're able to get to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, which I think this team fully has a potential to make it there this year. But he would go automatically onto the Rams, probably, the Mount Rushmore of the Rams.
Yeah.
You're talking about what the Rams mean to LA, what Stafford means to LA. He could cement himself as a fixture of the LA community, as a true Angelino. I wouldn't put him on the LA Mount Rushmore, but you're talking about a pride that lasts longer than the money that he could earn from this. Obviously Rams fans love Stafford right now. That completely changes. That completely goes out the window.
Yeah.
Like how many, Rams fans today are talking, Kurt Warner,
Yeah.
the past is kind of forgotten in a way. And they're going to be in LA for quite some time, I imagine. It could mean so much if he stuck around and he became, kind of like an Andrew Whitworth. I think Andrew Whitworth is probably more popular now with the Rams fan base than he ever was as a player.
Yeah. And the last point about the money thing, which is why it just in my plain eyes, it's more of just needing to hit that mark of that value mark. It's not actually the monetary value. It's just like being in that top echelon. You bring up Tom, and again, I'm not saying he has the personality or even the desire of Tom Brady, but Tom Brady's making triple now what he made as a player. What he's making from Fox and what he's making as a minority owner for the Raiders and all of his other investments, he's making triple his annual salary right now, retired, than he was as a quarterback. Stafford will have the world as his oyster when he retires. He'll have so many opportunities.
He's great on camera.
Yeah, he's great on camera. He's, commercials indoors, living in LA. So again, it's just, that's the big thing I'm trying to say. And I'm not trying to sound like bashing, but to me, it's not about $3, $4, $5 million. It's about being seen as the top 9 paid quarterback. That I think is where he wants
for 1
to be.
year.
Yeah. Versus actually no, I don't want to make 40. I need to make 53. I think it's being in that more than the actual money, because he'll make the money. He's made the money already, and he'll make even more after football.
Yeah. And, going back to the point you were making about, potential versus being paid for past performance, all of those quarterbacks ahead of him were paid because of what they had to offer their franchise in the future. And, and some of them are working out and some of them are not. But, it's just, I think he needs to be thinking about his legacy more. Obviously still beloved in Detroit in some ways, also hated in Detroit. If he leaves LA on these kinds of terms, there's going to be some jersey burnings,
Yeah.
There's going to be some people that are upset by it. There's going to be more rational people that are going to understand the business of it all. But think about the legacy, think about Rams football history, think about the quarterbacks that aren't on the Rushmore of Rams legacy,
Yeah. Well, that last thing we'll and we can wrap this up, but can you think of I could just say player, but let's just keep it quarterbacks. Can you think of a quarterback that at his age going into the final stretch kind of had a contract holdout? And again, with the Brady thing, it wasn't a monetary thing. It was just more of philosophy. Him and Belichick weren't getting along anymore. He went to Tampa Bay and made $30 million a year. I mean, he wasn't making $50 million or whatever a year. He went for a 2-year, $60 million deal or something. Or maybe it was 3 or 90. I don't know. But so it wasn't like a money kind. It was just philosophically they were in different passes. But can you think of a quarterback in their final hurrah, kind of putting again, I feel bad because I feel like I'm sounding terrible, but just kind of putting the contract above winning that final ring. Usually at the end of it's what do we got to do to ride off into the sunset for a ring? So it's just very odd to me that the talk right now is all about what do we do to, I don't know. You get what I'm saying?
A few names come to mind, and I mean, this isn't necessarily my memory is its best, but there's weirdness around the Dak Prescott contract. That took some time, but that was more on Dallas side of things.
But he was 29 when he signed that. I mean, like
Yeah.
a quarterback in their final swan song.
Well,
Like even Rodgers, for all his faults, like he took a pay cut to go to the Jets. I mean,
yeah.
he took like 20 million less to go play with the Jets and waived certain things. And
A couple other names that come to mind are Russell Wilson, but again, kind of weird. That there's like a lot of weirdness from Seattle to Denver to
yeah,
Steelers now. I don't remember.
Wilson, I think, was 34 at the time when they traded him, or 33.
Yeah,
So
but so the one I can really think of is Brett Favre. That
yes,
and
okay,
I don't
and it
remember
didn't end
all of
good.
it. Did not. It did not. Yeah, and I think it still isn't. It still isn't going well. and I
Yeah,
and I don't know in terms of his legacy with the Packers. Obviously, he's probably pretty well renowned there, but it didn't end well. And yeah, I don't remember exactly what the contract conversation was around that, but uh, you know, yeah, I mean, he wound up kind of. I mean, he had a good year with the Vikings. That's
yeah,
how that ended. But
yeah,
the Jets, it didn't work out well, and but
yeah. Because
uh,
it's one thing if you have like teams like the Chargers, when you have your quarterback in waiting, or even the Packers with Favre and Rodgers. Like when you have your quarterback in waiting,
yeah,
and it's like, all right, well, this guy's our vet, he's our franchise. Like, do we still make it work and keep this guy waiting? Like that's one thing. It's another thing when like there's no one in waiting. Like there's no one even on the roster right. Well, I mean, that's Stetson Bennett technically, but Jimmy Garoppolo's gonna be a free agent. There's like no one on the like Stafford's the guy. There's not like someone pushing him out,
yeah,
but the reporting and the storyline is he's making it more about the money than like writing out. And now both can happen. You can get the contract and ride off in the sunset and chase the Super Bowl. I can't think of an instance when you look at like the John Elways, the Dan Marinos, the Troy Aikmans, the all these greats, even the Montana who was forced out by Steve Young, but all these greats that were like, I've got no one behind me, but I might leave if I don't get into this upper echelon of paid QBs. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I'm now just like, this is more odd actually than it originally appeared.
yeah, and it doesn't end well for other positions that are more common that you see this where we talked a couple of weeks about Jerry Rice jumping around 3
Mm-hmm.
4 teams after he left the 49ers. We see that happen with wide receivers. It doesn't go very well though. There's not many Emmett Smith going over to the Cardinals in the last couple of years of his
Yeah.
it never ends. It doesn't look good. Joe Namath coming out to the Rams, like going all the way
Who
back
remembers
then.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. So um I wish him luck. I
Yeah.
wish him luck.
I mean, I hope they get it done. I think. Are you still in the camp that like you want? Okay, two questions. Do you want it to get done, Stafford to be the guy? You think that's still the best path forward? And do you think it gets done? We'll end with that.
I think it gets done within the next couple of days, and I think it is the only clear answer for the Rams to be a playoff team in 2025. I
With
think,
him under center.
yeah, I think Jim. You talk about and there's potential out there. We've talked about Darnold. We've talked about I'm in the Daniel Jones camp. I would be really intrigued to see that Sam Darnold in there as well, and there's intriguing options,
Mm-hmm.
but like this is we've seen it. It's a proven commodity. He's still got gas in the tank, and all those other guys that got question marks, So I think it's their one clear Super Bowl window, but it doesn't preclude my previous assessment, which is you got to have somebody for the next step. You
Yeah.
got to have the Aaron Rodgers behind the Brett Favre.
Yeah. Well, and now more than ever, like, because who knows if they get it done, it's got to be more than a 1 year deal apparently. Because I think that's what Stafford wants is more than a 1 year deal. But more than even ever now, even though this is not a great QB class, whether you draft a QB or you just say F it and go get Darnold as well to back up Stafford, like you need to have someone that come this time next year. You can't have Stafford going again like, oh, no, I'm not. Let's do these contracts because then you can be like, no, okay, we'll just move on. We got this next guy that we've been training. He's been in the McVay system. They're not like hands tied behind their back because there is no option right now. Like, yes, there's some free agent options we've talked about ad nauseum, but if you have someone on the roster there already, you set yourself up to like, this is what it is, take it or leave it, or we'll just move on. Whereas now it's like they have to reset everything and change. So I agree. I do think they get it done still. Last week I felt less optimistic. I don't know why I feel more optimistic. I think I think cooler heads will prevail, and Stafford and the Rams will. I mean, they both, I think, want this to happen. I do truly believe that. I think it's smart the Rams allowing basically the legal tampering to go out and see his market. He'll have a market for sure, but I think he'll eventually be like, is that couple million more worth resetting my family, resetting a new culture, a new vibe for potentially a catastrophe in my career? You never know. He could have a Tom Brady like ending and go to Tampa Bay and win a Super Bowl with a new team and show that he really is the real deal and it wasn't just McVay. Not that anyone I don't think thinks that, but I think ultimately they'll realize what they have is really special, and he needs to be a Ram to retire and go down in Los Angeles lore.
Absolutely.
That's what I want. I want him to be on that LA Mount Rushmore.
Me too. LA deserves it. We need a strong face up there. Like a true Los Angeles player. I mean, Aaron Donald, of course, is. Yeah. But I mean, like of the this iteration of the LA Rams. I mean, what are we talking? I mean, it's short. It's incredibly small sample size, as they say.
I mean, just in general, LA Rams quarterbacks, it'd probably be what? Roman Gabriel and
Jim Everett.
And then Stafford would be your elite.
Yeah.
You're like big three.
Oh, absolutely. And then
you could throw in Dieter Brock, the old rookie.
Yeah, if you want.
The old rook.
Go back to old buckets, Bob Waterfield. You could go back to Norm
Waterfield.
Norm Van Brocklin.
I mean, the Rams have actually had some elite LA QBs way back in the day. Norm Van Brocklin was a stud.
Kicker, punter,
quarterback. Yeah, he was Waterfield the original Ray guy.
Yeah.
I mean, Leatherheads, baby.
Love it.
Was there a cooler Leatherhead than the Ram Leatherhead? Like the Leatherhead helmet with the Ram? I mean, so cool.
I mean, they were the first to put a logo on the helmet. How rad is that?
First to put a logo on the helmet. Had the first, black NFL player in Kenny Washington from right here in UCLA. It's like the NFL's version of Jackie Robinson. Doesn't get talked about enough. Now they just need
Deacon Jones inventing the sack.
Yeah, Deacon Jones inventing the sack, the slap sack. So much history with LA. Now you just need Matthew Stafford to ride off into the Hollywood Hills. So all this 50 minutes of talk, I know we've kind of gone up and down, we've given facts, given opinions. At the end of the day, we both want this to remain as is, Stafford with the Rams. We just want to lay it all out there. I mean, we were very honest. So we might get some hate for it, maybe some agreement. Let us know what you guys think. I'm curious. Does everyone listening, watching, want Stafford back? Is everyone like good riddance? Let's just move on. Let's see what else is out there. I mean, it's going to be fascinating, man. Always is. This Rams team is just too fun. Can't imagine if we covered like the Texans. Nothing against the Texans, but there's not a lot of like sauce around them. It's just Rams are always saucy.
Saucy.
Yeah. Always.
Go out there and get the Super Bowl. That's what I want.
Yeah. You got anything else? We'll wrap up.
We got to talk coaches next episode. They added Alex Van Pelt. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Mike Munchak is back.
I mean, some great Jimmy Lake.
Jimmy Lake's back.
Yeah, I think that was an underrated storyline because of all the Stafford stuff is Jimmy Lake obviously was here before, but you got a defensive coordinator in Jimmy Lake and Alex Van Pelt, who was the Patriots OC, both on your staff as senior assistants, and the great Mike Munchak, who's going to be a Hall of Famer now as like a analyst as well.
I had a crazy conspiratorial thought. Alex Van Pelt did a pretty good job with Drake May. You can disagree with me, but watch some more tape. Did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Rookie young quarterback on the roster. You go and get Alex Van Pelt to help out with that. I don't know.
J-Dart, baby. J-Dart. I mean, we're gonna be talking rookie quarterbacks here soon. I love J-Dart. Everyone's saying though J-Dart now, Jackson Dart that is he's a first round quarterback. Everyone's saying now. So all these mocks I'm seeing of people getting him in like the fourth round, I think people can forget about that.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I mean, he had fantastic Senior Bowl. Excited to see him throw for the combine. I mean, he's got kind of a rocket arm, right?
Yeah. I think he's the only one throwing, right? Shador's not throwing. I don't know. I haven't heard if Cam Ward's throwing, but I know Shador's not throwing.
Yeah.
It's a new thing, the new vibe, I guess. Anyway, well, guys, thanks as always for hanging out with us here on the Rams Skinny. If you have not already on our YouTube, Rams LAFB, hit that like and subscribe. If you're listening on podcasts, Apple, Spotify, just search Rams Skinny, or all of our Rams content, all of our LA sports content can be found at LAFBnetwork.com. LAFB Network on all of our socials, at RL Anderson LAFB, at Ryan Dyrud LAFB. Everyone, thanks for hanging out. Please drop us some comments. Let us know if you hate our opinions, love them, just your thoughts on the Matthew Stafford situation. Is he going to be back? Is he gone? Who's the next quarterback of the franchise? What does the future look like? Should the Rams be at the Combine? Should me and Skinny be in Indy right now as we speak? Should we get to Winnebago out and make a road trip last minute? We shall see. Thank you all for hanging out. Thank you to Bet Online. Thank you to Underdog Fantasy. Thank you to Skinny T. I'm Ryan Dyrud. Be well, be safe. Talk to y'all soon.